Let's take a look at the data that OnTask provides. From the main menu, press the Data button, select your student, and finally select the observation you want to view. Here, we see the nuts and bolts of the session, the student's overall on-task percentage followed by each of the 3 tags. In this case, we see that John was only on task 50% of the time, with direct instruction being his biggest hurdle. We can also see a few other important pieces of metadata at the bottom. The session length tells us the total running time of the session. The total data points are an important metric, as the larger the data pool is, the more accurate the conclusions are. Finally, the observer consistency shows us how many data points were missed by the observer. Of course, a higher consistency is better as it ensures the entire session was captured in an even manner. By pressing the Compare button at the top left, our data splits off, so we can see the observed student's information on the left, while his peer is on the right. Once we do this, we can easily see that John's on-task percentage is significantly lower than that of his peer. Additionally, we can see that while John's on-task percentage during independent practice isn't significantly different than his peer, he performed significantly worse during direct instruction. Now let's take a look at how OnTask visualizes data. Press the Chart button on the top right, and let's start with the timeline. The timeline chart is a technology exclusive to OnTask, and it is powerful. The timeline shows us how the student progressed from the beginning of the session to the end, and helps us visualize the teacher redirects. Any off-task data point will be reflected at the bottom, and an on-task data point will be on the top. The colors of the bars correspond to the tag. Looking at this example session, we can see that John started off well, but fell off task midway through direct instruction. A redirect from the teacher got John back on task. The same thing happened during guided practice, but the teacher redirects didn't seem to have much of an effect until independent practice. Tap the Close button at the top to go back to the main data screen. Now let's take a look at the pie chart. The pie chart is, just as it seems, a simple pie chart showing the overall on-task percentage and the 3 individual tags. The combined pie chart is another great tool for visualizing the data. This more easily shows how each individual tag fits into the overall picture of that individual learning session. For example, this chart implies that John has more success with activities that are shorter in duration, whereas he struggled with the longer duration of the direct instruction. Finally, the nested pie chart is another way to visualize the data, showing you which tags tended to be more on task than the others. Now let's share this data. For users of the original OnTask, you'll be thrilled to see how advanced OnTask 2 is with regard to sharing data. We've implemented some fantastic new export options. First though, it's important to note that you will only be able to export your data if strict privacy mode is turned off in the settings. Now when you export any of the data, you will be presented with the standard iOS share sheet. This will enable you to export via a wide variety of means, everything from email to saving locally on your device, via a messaging app of your choice, or even many collaboration applications that your organization might already use. Now we have 4 options for sharing our data. First is the basic summary. This simply exports a quick summary of the data, the student, and any notes. This is comparable to the share function from the original OnTask. Next, we have the option to share a proprietary .tsk file, which will allow anyone who has OnTask to open the session on their own device and view it exactly the same way that you are viewing it as the observer. For example, let's save this session into my local files. For the purposes of demonstration, we can imagine I've sent it to someone else and now wish to view that file directly. When tapping the file, OnTask 2 prompts me whether I want to simply view the session or save it to my own device. For now, let's simply view it. And now you can see that we can see the session exactly the same way as the observer originally did. This is a powerful new way of exporting data, which will allow the observer, teacher, parents, and anyone else involved to be more directly able to collaborate together. Next, for the power users, we have the ability to export to a spreadsheet. This combines a quick summary with a row-by-row account of every single data point. The spreadsheet can be opened in Apple Numbers, Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, or any other standard spreadsheet software, both on your device and on your desktop. Finally, we still do have the ability to share the timeline and pie charts to your photo roll in high resolution. That's it! Hopefully now you can see how OnTask is able to powerfully visualize the data it collects, giving robust context to the raw numbers.